if we meet at a party and you say, tell me about yourself, there are a number of ways that I could respond. I could talk in terms of what I do. You know, I work in this office, I do this job. Perhaps better still, I could talk in terms of what I love. You know, I love rock music, I'm passionate about, stand-up comedy or something. Perhaps best yet, I could talk in terms of relationships. You know, I am Emma's husband, I am Ruby's dad. There are lots of ways that we can define ourselves. But here's what happens when Moses wants the Lord to introduce himself. He's at the burning bush, which we thought about yesterday, and he's been commissioned by the angel of the Lord, by the God of the burning bush, by God's sent one who joins us in suffering in order to save. He's been commissioned by this Lord, and now, aged 80, Moses is meant to go back into go back to the Israelites and to say, I've seen the God of our fathers, and he's told me to get you out of Egypt. And maybe it's understandable that Moses has doubts about this plan. And in Exodus chapter 3, verse 13, he says, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? Verse 14, God said to Moses, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. So this is how the Lord chooses to identify himself. He doesn't talk here about what he does. He doesn't say, this is what I do, this is my job. He doesn't here talk about, this is what I love. Not here. In this statement, he doesn't even describe the relationships that he is in. He just says, I am who I am. You could translate it in either the present or the future tense. You could say, I am who I am, or you could say, I will be who I will be. But this is how he wants to be known. I am. And it's a name that's preserved for us in the Hebrew name Yahweh. Essentially, if you write I am who I am in Hebrew and then squash down the letters, you get Yahweh. And when it's anglicized, you might say Jehovah, although that's a pretty poor translation. But in our English translations of the Bible, it's usually indicated by the word Lord when all the letters are capitals. Every time you see capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, every time, and that's 6,800 times in the Old Testament, it is the personal name of this one. The one from the burning bush. I am who I am. This is the Lord naming himself. But what does it mean? Well, first of all, the Lord is telling us that he is in charge of describing himself. This ends the little games that we play when we say, I like to think about God like this, The Lord is who he is. He's not who we say he is. Okay? He names himself, we don't name him. The direction of travel is always down, from him to us. This means that we are released from the prison of our own imaginations. We don't have to come up with God. He comes out with himself. He'll define himself in his way. But that doesn't mean he's keeping himself to himself. When he says, I am who I am, it's not about his splendid isolation. How could it be? Think of the one who is speaking here. He is the angel of the Lord, verse 2. He is the one sent from the unseen God. He is the eternal Son of the Father. This is not the name of a lonely individual defining himself in stark opposition from everything else. No. So think of who he is who's saying this. It's not about individualism. And think about where he is when he declares himself to be the great I am. He's in the midst of the burning bush, symbolizing his presence with the people in their suffering. And think of the context. In verse 12, he's just used the same phrase. He said that I will be with you. I will be with you. He uses it as a promise. And this is in the context of his promise to save his people through almighty acts of deliverance. So who am I, asks God? I am the God who will be with you in suffering and through suffering to save you. That's who I am. Therefore, here's what the Lord is saying when he says, I am who I am. He's saying, I will tell you who I am. I will end the guessing games. I will be who I will be. As you see me save, you see me. You want to know who I am? Watch this space. Watch how I am with you. Watch how I will deliver you. Watch as I move heaven and earth for you in almighty redeeming love. And if we really want to know the ins and outs of this name, we have to wait and see. Not only wait and see what he does in Exodus, but what he does 1,500 years later. In the fullness of time, he stands before his people again, and he says, I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the gate to heaven. I am the good shepherd. I am the resurrection and the life. I am the way, the truth, and the life. I am the true vine. I am. Who is God? Well, let God define himself. He is the Lord of the burning bush, the great I am, who will be with you to save you. Do you hunger for something? He says, I am bread. Do you feel in the dark? He says, I am the light. Do you feel shut out from God? He says, I am the gate. Do you feel lost? He says, I am the good shepherd. Do you fear death? He says, I am the resurrection and the life. Do you feel disconnected from God and from others? He says, I am the true vine. Whatever your needs, the I am will meet them.